Hi, everyone.
Good morning. How are you guys? Or I
Good.
guess
How are you?
almost afternoon.
Everybody who is continuing to join here. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. See if we can't get some more folks logged on before we start rolling. Jesse, has Debbie already given you the capacity to drive any materials you've got?
We're doing just a panel presentation, so I don't know if you can tag us or pin us as speakers. I know how to do it all on Teams, but if not, that's okay.
All right. I'm going to leave that one up to Debbie. She's in charge of all the technology always.
It also be up to the participant to choose up in the view speaker view.
Good deal.
That's correct in Zoom.
Not
Yeah,
in-
you just need to unmute yourself when you're speaking.
Right. I hope we can handle that, but it's been almost 2 years and it's problematic.
Yeah, I feel that. And going back and forth between Zoom and Teams is always super fun. All right, so we have got 12:01 and a good group has joined us. So welcome everybody. My name is Stephanie Evans Kingsley. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board. We have started hosting these partner spotlights the first Wednesday of each month to provide an opportunity for our partners to have access to all of our cross-network programs and services. And today we've got a team from KCTCS's Workforce Solutions Center, and I am going to turn it over to Miss Jessie Shook, who is their Executive Director. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. We're excited to be here with you this morning, afternoon, depending on your perspective. As Stephanie mentioned, I'm Jessie Shook. I'm the Executive Director of Workforce Solutions for KCTCS. So I am housed at the system office, and I have the honor of supporting 16 colleges across the state. Our colleges are within a stone's throw of residents all across Kentucky, and we offer hundreds of programs, certifications, opportunities, skill, have earn and learn opportunities, and get their foot in the door with a good employer and a good job. And I'm honored to be here with you all today with several of our employer partners. And I will introduce them here in just a moment, but I want to take a brief second and tell you a little bit about Workforce Solutions as it differs, supports the mission of Kentucky Community and Technical College System, but also is a little bit different, and it may be an arm of our system that you are not familiar with. So Workforce Solutions is the arm of KCTCS that supports business and industry. Our direct mission is to partner with companies across Kentucky to ensure that they have a skilled, talented, versatile talent pipeline when they need it. And so that could be talent pipeline planning for today, talent pipeline planning for the future. But our job is really to sit down as a liaison with business and industry, understand their needs, and then develop rapid response solutions to ensure they have the talent that they need to meet their business operation demands. And so with us today, I've got several of our employer partners who have been working with us for some time now, and I'm going to introduce each of them. And then I want to tell you a little bit more about some services that are offered, giving you the high-level overview of what we offer through Workforce Solutions. And then we're going to hear a little bit about their experiences and how they have partnered with us to meet their talent needs. So with us, we have today Joni Smith, who is the Human Resources Manager at Martin Rea. She's been at Martin Rea in Hopkinsville for 6 years and recently joined HCC as an adjunct professor. She has over 20 years of experience in HR and a master's degree in education and a bachelor's degree in human resources. She has always had a passion around training and human development. We also have Ruth Moore with us, Vice President, Human Resource Manager at Aristech Services. Ruth brings more than 25 years of HR experience to Aristech after joining the team in mid-2013. She began her HR career, and chemical manufacturing facilities in Texas with OxyChem. After several changes in company ownership over the years due to acquisitions, Ruth most recently worked for Linden Basil, a global company. Ruth, if I said that wrong, you can correct me. A global company of 14,000 employees. Ruth's progressive experience has been focused in the chemical industry in both non-union and union environments. Ruth managed multiple HR manufacturing locations throughout the US. In addition, she led many of the merger, acquisition, and divestiture operational teams throughout her career with Linden Basil. Her final location with Linden Basil was at the Palmer Research and Development Center in Cincinnati, partnering with manufacturing, R&D, and commercial teams. At Aristech, the HR team has built strong infrastructure to deliver on business needs. A new culture has been developed with partnership from the executive team. This positioned Aristech well as it was recently purchased by Tricino in September of 2013. Ruth's strong attention to detail as well as understanding of the business with which she partners make her a successful and dynamic HR executive. She is able to balance the needs of business with the needs of employees. Ms. Moore has a bachelor's of science in speech communications with a minor in personal management from the University of Texas at Austin. And finally, we have with us Linda Kathleen Aubrey, Human Development Business Partner at Metesla, United States, Elizabethtown plant. Linda Aubrey has been with Metesla Human Development since March of 2016. Her career has been spent in HR with time at Century Aluminum and UPS before joining Metesla. She holds a bachelor's degree in business administration with a minor in accounting, an MBA with an HR emphasis, and a master of science in management. Despite the challenges the manufacturing and automotive sectors present, the sense of camaraderie, agility, and perseverance that Metesla demonstrates keep her motivated. So as you can see, we are with some very talented women here today who are going to share with us their experience. And I want to give you a very, very brief overview of the main services that we offer at Workforce Solutions. And then we'll get into some questions and really hear from the companies that are experiencing positive impacts through partnership with KCTCS. So 3 of the main facets of program offerings or initiatives that a company can access in partnership with Workforce Solutions are customized training, apprenticeship services, and finally, funding to offset the cost of customized training. So those 3 opportunities that we offer allow us to sit down with the company, understand their needs, and then develop a rapid response training program, whether that is for incumbent workers, new hires, or pre-employment training. We work with the company to know and understand their needs. It might be a combination of soft skills and technical skills. It might be a combination of on-the-job training and classroom training. You might need to have that training on nights or weekends to accommodate your schedule. We take all of that into consideration and then build a program that ensures your candidates, your employees can hit the ground running and reach full productivity more quickly. We have a really tremendous asset that we like to consider one of our best kept secrets, and that is KCTCS Trains Funding. Trains funding allows us to offset the cost of customized training for business and industry up to 75% of the total project cost. Companies are eligible for receiving up to $300,000 yearly in Trains funding. At 75% off, that's a $225,000 funding discount that we're able to provide for eligible Kentucky companies. What this means is that you can increase the depth and breadth of your training. You can impact more workers at a higher intensity, higher skill level for a much lower cost. In addition to that, we offer apprenticeship services. Apprenticeship is one of the most rapidly growing talent initiatives across the country, seeing very strong support at the state and federal levels. There's funding streams and incentives for employers to tap into who are providing apprenticeship programs. And essentially, an apprenticeship can look like anything you want it to, right? The very bare minimum here is that it's 140 plus hours of classroom training coupled with on-the-job training. So this does not need to be a full 2-year pathway or a 4-year pathway, though it can be. It can lead to an associate's degree, a certification, any type of credential really recognized by the industry, or even a bachelor's degree. And so we're seeing really, really interesting approaches to creating apprenticeships that upskill and level up over time. So we'll take a quick example. Think about a CNA. That is not a very high paying job, but we have built in partnership with companies, opportunities for CNAs to be fast tracked, customize their training so that they're ready to apply for an LPN program, and then put them on an LPN apprenticeship program. So that's the second opportunity through Workforce Solutions. So those are two main areas that we offer to help companies really craft a business model in terms of talent attraction, retention, and development that works for their company. So let me stop there, and then we will get into some questions from the panel. So I would love for each of you guys, and we'll start with Linda, if you could provide an overview of your organization and explain to the group here today what the catalyst was that caused you to prioritize talent attraction, retention, and development.
So, and it's actually Matulsa, which it's a difficult name to say. We're out of.
Thank you for correcting me.
It's out of Mexico is where we're founded. We are a global organization with over 61 years of experience in the industry. We actually started in the lighting buttress industry before we transitioned kind of quickly into automotive, and grew pretty early out of Mexico and went kind of global. So today, again, we're a global organization. We have over 10,000 collaborators globally. We are lucky enough here in Elizabethtown to be the second largest facility other than our corporate headquarters out of Apodaca in Mexico. We are a tier 1 automotive supplier, so primarily focused on automotive structures. So you're thinking primarily frames, right? So in Elizabethtown, like I mentioned, we are the second biggest facility. We primarily manufacture the F-150 frame. So we make about 80% of those that go on the road. So obviously, very popular vehicle. We also make the Expedition and Navigator frames, and most recently are getting into the electrification side of structures. So we're looking at some new business with Ford, with the Ford Lightning. So the all-electric F-150, we are manufacturing that, as well as some partnership with Rivian, which is a new customer to the industry. We do have locations in Hoptown as well as Owensboro. I know Hoptown does, and I believe Owensboro does as well, participate in the network with KCTCS. And for us, automotive manufacturing is difficult to find the right candidates for. I came out of heavy manufacturing when I started in aluminum smelting. So that's obviously a very dirty, very, again, heavy industry. And that had its own challenges. And then I went into UPS, which obviously with the logistics shipping industry as it is today and just continues to grow, there's a fast pace and agility need there that is unique, but nothing prepared me for what automotive manufacturing would be like in terms of how quickly you have to respond to challenges. Your customer demands are very high. The final customer demands fluctuate pretty frequently. The automotive industry goes up and down, so you're managing through volume changes and challenges pretty much all the time. So we've always had to be creative with how we offer benefits and to differentiate ourselves, to say, hey, you might work a lot of overtime. There might be a lot of volatility. It's not always the cleanest or easiest work because of the environment that you're going to be in. So what can we do to differentiate ourselves? So along with a really strong benefits package, development, training, those things were always important, and nothing could be more true today, facing the challenges that we've seen over the last, I kept saying like year, now it's like almost 2 years really, that we've been facing the multitude of challenges with COVID and keeping your facility safe and clean initially and healthy. Now going into the multitude of supply chain issues we've been facing really all year in 2021. So I think it's hard. There's so many more jobs than there are job seekers. And if you are not doing everything you can today, you are just not going to get your facility staffed. And even when you're doing everything you can, it's still a challenge. So I think there was always those pressures in our industry, and there are always those challenges in every industry, but nothing has made that more prevalent than the pandemic and then the subsequent issues we faced in the last, again, I kept saying I wanted to end. So I kept saying like year and a half, but now we're really facing 2 years of these challenges almost. So That's been I think it's made a priority for those things, and it makes your decision making easy on some of those HR type benefits and programs, because you have to do it. You have no option.
Thank you, Linda. I think that's very insightful. And, for better or worse, even though this is a pain point for many companies across the state right now, we're seeing job quality improvements. And that is going to lead ultimately to better employees who are more productive, more satisfied, and more willing to stay on at the company. So I think although we are at this moment of fundamental change in the world of work and frankly, capitalism and economics as we know it, we are already seeing some of the positive impacts. And I think that over time, retention is going to become one of the greatest positive outcomes for companies like the 3 companies represented today on this panel who are stepping up and making these important changes. So Ruth, with that, I'll pop over to you for your perspective on this question. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and why you all have been so invested in talent development, attraction, and retention?
Sure, thank you. And thank you for the invite today. So a little bit about Aris Tech Surfaces, a little like Linda shared, we are a 50-year-old company. We are headquartered here in Florence, Kentucky. Our main manufacturing facility sits here, as well as our corporate office. We are also global, and we also have a small kind of 25-person manufacturing facility in New Mexico. But most of, 90% of our operation is here, as well as our support staff in the corporate office. We have just under 300 employees, about 293 or so. Again, sales and marketing global. It's kind of scattered throughout the world. And what Aris Tech does is we manufacture acrylic sheet and acrylic solid surface. Acrylic sheet goes into the bath and hot tub markets. There's really only kind of 2 players in the US. And we have over 60% of the market share in the US. So if you've sat in a bathtub or you've sat in a hot tub in your lifetime, you have more than likely sat on Aris Tech surfaces material. So we don't make the bathtub or the hot tub. We just make, let's call it that liner, kind of the plastic liner that you actually sit and have contact with. That's what we make. We make that sheet, and then we sell to, names everyone would know on this call: Bullfrog, Jacuzzi, Kohler, American Standard, very, very household names in the bath and hot tub. The other thing that we make is what we call a solid surface. A solid surface is like a top surfacing material, very hygienic, very well suited for high traffic and high wear areas. So hospitality. We actually service Chick-fil-A, Panera Bread, Walgreens. So if you've ever checked out at a cash register at any of those facilities, you've seen our product. Healthcare is also a very, very good placement for our product because of its hygienic purpose. So nurses' stations in hospitals, for instance, the countertop material. And it can look as pretty as this. So you can kind of see that on the camera. Or it can be, a seat, like I said, for bath or hot tub. And so that's a little bit about what we do. We export quite a bit of material to China, and I did say export. So China is one of our biggest selling markets they really like the U.S. material for hot tub. So to your question, Jesse, about, kind of what got us into kind of making the transition and really looking at the workforce development was really, we really were very blessed during the pandemic as a company in that we experienced exponential growth. So we added another machine and went to more full-scale shifts during the pandemic. We also make this lesser known product called plexiglass that kind of bloomed, kind of exploded during the pandemic. And so we also make that clear acrylic sheet. So we needed to ramp up quickly. With the challenges of hiring during that time, not just logistically during COVID, but just finding candidates and applicants and the quality of the candidates and the applicants during that time, because we needed to add about 60 positions as fast as we possibly could, and to be able to get the production line up and running. We just really found that the candidate quality was really subpar and very, very much lower than what we'd seen in previous times. So I guess I want to say too, I sort of have always had this idea about kind of building out what we've eventually come to know as what we call the Advantage. And that's a kind of pre-employment, I did say pre-employment course that we've built in partnership with Gateway. Christy Godman and Emily Sayers were instrumental and critical to our success in developing this program. But we now have kind of a 2-week pre-onboarding class that we run our candidates through before they come to Aris Tech. They get safety training. We talk about soft skills. They learn about machinery and hand tools. And so they really come, the tagline for our program is manufacturing readiness course. And I think that really sums up what we accomplished in that 2-week class before they come to Aris Tech. We also take advantage, Jesse, through Gateway, and on the development side, we do have a registered apprenticeship program, and we run that through Gateway. We've gotten it registered with the DOL and the Commonwealth. We utilize the Trains grant to cover some of that, as well as our Advantage. And I also participate on the new pilot program here at the local Florence, Kentucky Gateway for the manufacturing apprenticeship program, and I'm on the employer advisory board there. So we utilize Gateway on a daily basis. They also do our testing and pre-employment testing for us. So I hope that our name over there is a household name, but in a positive way. So no, we're very appreciative to our Gateway partners, and we've just found the next phase for us, as I talked a little bit about this pre-employment, and you talked also about incumbent employees. Our next phase is to go to what we're going to call Advantage 2, and we're going to take this Advantage class and start to do it for incumbent in-house employees and further their development.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ruth. And you made a few points there that with my influence of over-the-counter cold medication, I forgot to make at the beginning of my presentation. And I think I even said that the 3 major things that I want to touch on, and then I only mentioned 2, but you mentioned another one, and that is new industry-driven programs. And so that's another opportunity that we're able to build out programs specific to meet local labor market needs based on the community in which that college is located. And so we utilize our Trains funding to provide seed money to get those programs up and running, but companies can benefit significantly from new industry-driven programs. And the caveat for the colleges is they must show letters of support from local companies. It's not enough for us to say the labor market demand is showing we need X number of positions over X number of years, because what we've come to find out is that sometimes the skills gap is still there. Or even worse, this idea of the experience gap. And we know that we've got needs, for example, in entry-level IT talent, but many employers that have IT talent needs aren't willing to hire new talent that doesn't have 3 to 5 years of experience. Well, that puts us in a really tricky position, right? It's a catch-22. We know we need more supply, but yet the demand side isn't willing to take on that supply unless they've got the experience. So one good example of this is we're currently looking at building out some type of incubator concept with some of this seed money to help meet that 3 to 5 years of experience gap. So it's just another thing that you mentioned, Ruth, these new programs, we're constantly looking to innovate and almost beta test things on the workforce development side of the house. As many of you all probably know on this call, on the education side for academic credit, it can take up to 18 months to pass a new program through with Council for Post-Secondary Education and our higher ed partners. But if that program has proven demand and proven value to the employer community, we can eventually shift that from a non-credit to a credit program or offer credit for prior learning. So I did want to mention that. Appreciate you reminding me, Ruth. With that, Joni, we will move over to you. And I'm going to, since Ruth already touched on some of the ways that they are partnering with KCTCS, perhaps you can give your overview, the catalyst of why you all are prioritizing your talent initiatives right now. And then you can touch on, Joni, a little bit about the way you partner with KCTCS, and then we'll hop back over to Linda for her perspective on that.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, we are with Martin Rea here in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. We are a global company. Our headquarters are in Canada, and we have 57 locations, and we're in 10 different countries. And based on what I heard from the other two companies, we are the baby in the room. We turned 20 years old this year. So Martin Rea has only been in existence for 20 years. And what got us into seeking out partnerships, and I wish I could take credit for the partnerships being all my idea, but they were not, because I had some good HR people who came before me who created a platform that is allowing me to reap a lot of the benefits that are there. But years ago, as far back as probably 2009, when we first started signing up for these kinds of programs, we recognized that there was going to be a huge skills gap in the area of skilled trades, our tooling and our maintenance and our robotics, that there was going to be a gap. And so we started partnering with West Kentucky Workforce and Hopkinsville Community College. So we've had a long relationship with them at this point. I think of it like a three-legged stool. Okay, we may be one leg of that stool, but without Hopkinsville Community College and West Kentucky Workforce, we would not be able to be successful at what we do. Ways in which we work with them is we have the apprenticeship program for maintenance and for tooling. And then we are in the process of creating one that we are going to submit to the state for funding in probably 2022, 2023 for robotics, which will have a conglomeration of the little IT component, as well as a little bit of the programming component from the IT program, as well as robotics, which, you know, you think of historic robotics, okay, like they have in high school, those kinds of things. And trying to partner those two things together so that when we need robotics techs, because Lord knows we have almost as many robots in this building as we have people. Actually, there's only 150 more people than there are robots in the building. So, and I'm pretty sure over time that's going to change. So that is one of the things that as we partner, we're going to go forward with that. We also use our partners for customized training. When we are getting some soldiers transitioning in, we also use our partners to help us with some of that leadership style training. It's a little different leading troops than it is leading folks in a manufacturing environment. So we have them come alongside and learn some of those soft skills that will help them to continue to be successful in outside of the military arena. So that has been just very good for us. Haven't been able to do it since 2020, coronavirus. Okay, so that took care of that. But we'll start that way up. We'll be starting those classes up again in 2022. And then we also realized that we needed to grow our own. So that's why we got into cooperation with the apprenticeship kinds of programs. So we have HopFame. We have our first HopFame person, and she's doing absolutely amazing in the maintenance program. Then the tooling apprentices, I already talked about the maintenance apprentices, and then the leadership training. So that's pretty much what we do. And Martin Rea focuses on cradles, just like a baby. The cradle keeps the baby up off the ground. Our parts keep you up off the ground in your car.
Thank you so much, Joni. And I think your response really shows the importance of continued education at all facets, at all touch points throughout our career. I'm reading this book right now called The Upskilling Imperative, and it reinforces that the learning cannot stop. We must continue to learn new skills, soft skills, technical skills. It shouldn't be a given that we're done working on conflict resolution skills or communication skills. And I just want to stress that KCTCS and Workforce Solutions specifically can help whether you are looking at entry-level positions and perhaps needing basic soft skills and technical skills for your new hires or for pre-employment training. We can build that out. But if you're looking at your C-suite and you're trying to develop a program on becoming a better manager, being better at giving feedback. I just read that chapter. That is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to give or receive. These are all areas where we can help. And the more you provide employees with the opportunity for lifelong learning, the more likely it is that they're going to see that pathway for advancement feel that you as a company are investing in them, and for that reason, be more likely to remain at your company longer term. So Linda, with that, let's go back to you and a little bit about the ways in which Metulsa are collaborating with KCTCS to develop these talent initiatives.
So like I mentioned, we do have multiple Kentucky facilities. I know, like I mentioned, Hoptown partners with the community college there for a lot of similar activities, but for the most part, I'll go ahead and speak to what we're specifically doing in E-Town, as that's kind of my knowledge base. So we do everything with ECTC, to be honest. We are such close partners with them that we actually have all of our pre-employment weld certification that we require per our customer rolls through ECTC. So we partnered with the weld shop there in their occupational building, and we have our employees training, our hourly employees with like 80 years of experience combined with our robots and our booth training in their facility. So we use their classrooms, neighbors use some of their resources, but we have today about, I think it's around 1,700 hourly employees. I would say about 75% of them went through ECTC to make it into Metulsa through their pre-employment process. Additionally, through that process and the visibility of our professor partners and staff partners there at the college, we actually went to the next step with that certification. So we actually partnered to create a weld helper certification through ECTC, where our employees can go and take some additional classroom courses to go along with the OJT that the college is seeing there, to actually apply and get an additional true certification through the college, just for a little bit of extra work beyond the pre-employment steps they're already completing for us. Also, we have similar processes, I think, to Martin Rea. We are heavily robotic. We have 7,000 FANUC robots throughout our facility that are very complex. We have very complex forming processes in tool and die, because we form most of our own parts. And we have, of course, because of all of that robotics and our complexity of our assembly lines, very, very high skill needs for our skilled trades, for our maintenance and our tool and die makers, like Johnny mentioned. We have a group of about 200 of those skilled employees in the facility. And obviously, as everyone probably is aware, there is a great need for more skilled labor. So we actually also have a very, very successful apprenticeship program that we could not do without ECTC. Not only do they help with some of the pre-employment, I call it, but really pre-certification steps, because they are current employees going through that process with some tape testing, with the Bennett mechanical testing that ECTC does all of the facilitation for. All of the classroom work that goes into that 4-year apprenticeship program is done at ECTC. So we'll have students in classrooms there for the breadth of that entire 4 years. And at the end of that program, they actually graduate with a full journeyman certificate with the state. So it's an incredible process. It's one of the things we're most proud of in the facility, because of despite how complex or maybe because of how complex our processes are, the apprentices we put through the program are by far our most successful skilled trades, more so than even somebody that you're bringing from another facility that maybe has 20 years of experience. You get somebody with a few years of internal experience that then goes through that process. They're above and beyond our best performers. In addition to that, we, I think probably back in 2019, we're able to partner with the Skills U portion of ECTC to partner in the GED Plus program. So we were preparing for pretty significant launches. We do a reprogram basically for the new generation of our F-150 about every 5 years. For us, that happened at the end of 19 and through 2020. So not the best time for us to be adding close to 300 jobs and going through a whole retool and lines up and down. So as we were approaching that, we anticipated it would be hard to find those employees in the market. Elizabethtown is bigger than some cities in Kentucky, but not huge. And there's a lot of industry here. So we were looking at ways to open up that candidate pool. And that's when we went into the GED Plus program, where our applicants and then employees are able to work towards their GED while working for us. So that way we were able to find some candidates that maybe didn't already have a GED or high school diploma, but wanted to find a job where they had a wage that they could work a reasonable amount of time to then also have enough time to finish out their education. Because a lot of times those applicants coming in don't have time to study and finish their GED because they're having to work so many hours because they're not offered a wage that's competitive because of that missing credential. So we've had a ton of success. We have people that are so proud of themselves, and we are so proud of them, and SkillsU is so proud of them as they go through that program. Other than that, I think the main other items we have is they have built some specific robotics programs for us. So they've built entire training programs for us to help our current employees with a better understanding of our complex robotic processes. We've donated some robots over there so that they can see those in a classroom feel. We also have had some specific leadership and soft skills training developed. ECTC has a really cool like training bus that they were able to create. I would say my years have now run together. I would say in the last 2 years maybe is the right time frame, but I'm like, was it 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21? COVID has ruined my time frame, but we've been able to have them actually come directly on site and still get an out of facility experience where they can really dedicate all their focus to that training and not feel distracted in the plant, but then actually be on site where it's very convenient and doesn't feel like you're taking too much time away from our business to do so. And then of course we have a tuition reimbursement program where many of our students, because they're many of our employees become students with ECTC because again, the partnership is so ingrained and so close here that when they think, oh, I want to get a degree, I want to take a class, I want to get a certification, their first thought is ECTC because again, that partnership is just so ingrained on both sides. So again, I can't say enough, their flexibility to offer us space if we need to do our own training to help us facilitate things. I think we have weekly meetings, to be honest. A lot of what we do and most of what we do from a talent development, from a training, from a learning and development perspective, we owe so much of that to ECTC. And we're so thankful for that continued and super flexible, even through all the COVID craziness partnership.
Thank you so much, Linda. I'm thinking of the heating and cooling commercials that you see on network television where they say, they didn't pay me to do this. I do this because this heating and cooling company is there for me when I need them. I promise I didn't pay any of these employers partners to say this. We really, really value your partnership, and we cannot make an impact in the lives of Kentuckians to better their employment opportunities without a lockstep partnership with employers. Education cannot do this alone. The business community cannot do this alone. And I think the three responses that we just heard from you all really showcase that partnership collaboration is key. Linda, I did want to follow up on some of your comments around apprenticeship, because I also forgot to mention this. This is why I'm so glad to have such wonderful panelists here today, reminding me of the things that I'm forgetting. KCTCS apprenticeship services really range from a wide menu of options to support apprenticeship. I saw that a lot of my colleagues from the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services are on the call here today, as well as some of our other colleagues from our fellow workforce organizations across the state. And what I want to stress is that if KCTCS apprenticeship services, which include recruitment of employees, support of apprentices along the way, tracking their progress, providing mentorship, providing coaching to that employer mentor, to the person who is helping them on site to learn and gain the skills. If those aren't a fit for the company and simply they want to register on their own and may not be using KCTCS for that related training and instruction, or maybe they are, but they just don't need that range of services, we will happily connect you to our colleagues at the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services to get you registered. I say that, and I want to add that I want you all to think of KCTCS as well as our partners as an entry point, not the front door. There is no front door. There are multiple doors to enter this workforce development ecosystem. And every person you meet, no matter which door you walk through, is here to help and assist. And so if you sit down with your local KCTCS business outreach team and you talk about needs, and we don't have a product or service that's going to help you meet your needs, but our friends at OEAS or our friends at the Kentucky Chamber or your local career center do have a program or an incentive or a financial resource that's going to help you meet your needs. We know that. My friend Michelle DeJean calls her team walking Googles. I aspire that our team is apprised of that information as well, and will be able to seamlessly connect you to the right organization and the right resource to meet those talent needs. And so with that said, one of the greatest resources that we have within KCTCS that I have already mentioned is the Trains funding, a 75% discount on training. We recently elevated that amount of support from 50% to 75%. We've seen over a 260% increase from Q4 of last year to Q1 in the number of enrollments across customized training programs, which is showing us this is a high need for business and industry. The more people we can train and the more depth of training that we can provide, the better off Kentuckians and companies will be in securing good jobs and retaining those good jobs. And so I want to ask you guys, and Ruth, I'll start with you on this one. Have you accessed KCTCS Trains funding? Why is that important for your company?
So yes, the Trains was really critical to us getting our Advantage program up off the ground, because this was a pilot and because, no one really knew, what the success would look like for this program. We really needed to have kind of some backing, and the Trains grant allowed us to do that and to be able to pitch that internally, because we were sort of sharing the risk, if you will, from a financial perspective with the Trains grant. Again, we were small before we were purchased, so learning and development budgets were very tight. There wasn't a lot of discretionary funds to be able to go and fund something, kind of brainstorming like this. So again, it really allowed us to kind of pilot this program. And now as we've started to institutionalize it and see the results, really get internal support for that. With the new company, I think that their approach is a little bit different. They're also public versus private. And just the global scale of the new company, pronounced Trinseo, by the way. And I think that will help, but being able to come into an acquisition like that and say, hey, we have this pilot, very unique approach to onboarding. And oh, by the way, it's also subsidized. We're actually at the 50% Trains level with the renewal, but it's subsidized 50% was also, a very appealing selling point to the buyer of Aristech. So it was really critical for us to be able to pilot this program and get it off the ground.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm glad you mentioned the renewal. I said earlier on in our conversation that companies are eligible for 75-25 funding support up to $300,000. Once that $300,000 mark has been met, if there is a continued training need, that company can reapply within the same fiscal year at a 50-50 support level. So there is an opportunity if you have training and development needs that go beyond that $300,000 mark to still access support. So Joni, let's go over to you on this one. Have you all been utilizing Trains, and what impact have you seen as a result?
See, when she was talking, I'm like, I don't know if I get Trains money or not. I have no idea. All I know is everything I've ever needed, I call Tom Scholler for. So he probably should have been a panelist. Eugenia and Tom Scholler, those are my people. I just tell them what and Hopkinsville Community College, Lee. Call those three people. This is what I need. And they figure out how I get what it is that I need. They take care of me so well that I couldn't tell you the names of anything that comes through, but I can always give honor and be thankful for the people who make it happen. So I don't know.
So I do know, and you all have benefited from Trains funding. But I love your response, and here's why. Because we want to make it so easy for the company that you don't have to worry about it, right? You see that bottom line there on what it is you are paying and the total price of the training. You may not even realize it because we are handling all of the heavy lifting. I think when you think about grant funding and financial support, you think about jumping through hoops that are set on fire. That will not be your experience with KCTCS. You may not even know or understand. In
Yeah,
some,
let me say something about that, if you don't mind, because
of course.
that is so critical what you just said. In my earlier career, I was a grant writer, okay? That is what I did for a living for about 6 years. I have not had to write a grant since I have been here. I am telling you, these folks take care of me so well, so absolute well. If I need a person from the state for my welding program, like Linda mentioned, they will find the contact that I need to have whatever conversation I need to have about whatever topic I'm going through. So once again, I don't know what we're doing. All I know is it's working for us. I don't have any employment issues. I have the people that I need today, knock on wood, because I hear it ain't going well. And I have the partners in place that make my life absolutely wonderful on a day-to-day basis. And for anybody who's not using this service, I doubt that there's anybody on here that's not using it, but if you have not contacted these people because you thought it was going to be some work or it was going to be a problem, I guarantee you it is not a problem. It is not any extra work. It is nothing that you have to think about on a day-to-day basis. Whatever they need from you, they will ask you for, and they don't need a whole lot from you. So, hey, just once again, thank you to my other two-legged stool partners that take care of me.
And I just want to say ditto, and we have the same relationship here at the Florence Gateway as well. So you're right, it makes it very seamless. I guess I'm just a control freak, and so I knew the answer to the trains question. Maybe that's because your poster on your wall, Johnny, says trust. Yeah, I'm a trust but verify kind of person. What can I say?
I love it. That's great. Linda, could you weigh in on this response too?
So we also do utilize trains. I do very little with it and don't have to because I actually reached out to, we have a kind of a lead L&D part of our HD function. And I was like, hey, I know we do this. What all do we do it for? And really a lot of it is with our apprenticeship. It's with the pre-employment as well as those classes. And then also with the, it can be so expensive to build out custom courses. So when we were looking for the opportunity to figure out how we could put together a robotics training, that was immediately where we went. Obviously at our thought, we're just trying to, as we can sell it with a lower cost, it helps us get that business case over the goal line, because obviously then your opportunity for your return on that investment is much easier, much quicker. Of course, at the urging of our partners at ECTC, a lot of times when we're looking at what we can do and what we can't do, what budget we have or not, we'll look and see, is it eligible for the trains kind of opportunities for the trains grant, to say, hey, this one, maybe we see it as a middle priority and it's trains eligible. This one we see as a middle priority and it's not. Let's go ahead and pull that trains one ahead, just because we know it's not going to be nearly as cost restrictive as maybe the other opportunities are. So really what it's done is open the door for us to do a lot more than we could have done without it.
Thank you, Linda. And I also want to say that, to reiterate what has already been said, we want to make the process as easy as possible for you. Our mission is to ensure that Kentucky companies have the talent they need and Kentucky workers have the skills they need to take the open jobs. Though we do sell, in a sense, customized training, though we do provide consultative services, we are not going to be the salespeople of your nightmares that are going to badger you if our services are not a fit. I want to reiterate that. The goal here is to connect your company to the right organization, the right resources, potentially braid funding streams with partner organizations or braid resources together to ensure that you have what you need to meet your talent pipeline demands. With that said, if trains isn't a fit, and Joni, you were on the SHRM presentation with me a few months ago where we had some of our friends from the Bluegrass State Skills Corporation there representing that funding opportunity. And we talked about both. If Trains isn't a fit because you're using someone in-house or you have a consultant that you're using, not affiliated with KCTCS, and you've been using them for 20 years, we will get you connected to our friends at the Cabinet for Economic Development so that you have access to that funding source. We want to make it as easy as possible for our HR professionals and corporate leadership and company leadership across the state to tap into what they need to remain viable in today's economy. We are running short on time here, so we've got 10 minutes left. I want to be sure there's time for questions. So I'm going to ask one more question from your all's professional perspective. And so we'll start with Linda, since you're already up on my screen at least. From your perspective, what is, and I'm kind of going off script here, I'm blending a few questions together. What do you feel is the most imperative thing that companies can do right now to meet the challenges in today's labor market climate?
So obviously this is something that we've been exploring more so than ever this year. First, it was looking at how do we attract, and then after hiring 600 people, it really became how do we retain. So to be honest, we are so focused on retention right now. And when we're looking at our retention, we're really looking at how do we engage our workforce. An engaged workforce is a workforce that doesn't leave, most likely. And there's many pieces of that. We have a strategy that includes dialogue in terms of two-way communication, that includes environment, well-being, a lot of those things. But really a big piece of that is employees understanding that their employer is just as invested in them as they are invested in the organization. And I think one of the major ways that you can show your employees that is by looking at their career path, looking at their development plan, and being a real partner and advocate for them so that they can see what their next 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, hopefully 10, 20, 30 years, whatever that looks like. If they don't see that future, then you are in the market of today, you're going to lose them. And I think that the major component of that is really career development, and a huge piece of your career development is learning and development and those opportunities. So I think that's why I think we've all said we're so thankful for the partnerships, and we really can't stress enough that we wouldn't be where we're at today, and we won't be at our future state, which is hopefully in an even better state than we are today without the partnerships of education institutions and networks like you all at KCTCS.
Thank you, Linda. Earlier in one of your responses, you may have had a Freudian slip where you referred to employees as students. Our employees.
Yes.
And I think that really solidifies everything that you just said in that statement alone, right? Coming to this challenge with an education first mentality, understanding that your employees will benefit and will be more loyal to your company if they see that opportunity to upskill, if they feel that their company is investing in them, and if they see that advancement is there. I think that is just such an important thing for all of us to keep in mind right now. And again, it's at every level of the organization. This is not just frontline workers we're talking about here. This is all the way up to your C-suite. Ruth, what about you? What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, so I hate to sound like rewind replay of Linda, but she did a great job in capturing it. I think from an Aerostech perspective, we would kind of say our focus is really on two places: investment, and it's really the things that Linda talked about. But I think our investment has maybe also gone a little further, this development piece and kind of creating and crafting. And I think you really send a message to your employees when you're willing to invest in them, and it does create that culture of learning. But again, it's about that investment and that development. I think with us looking at our advantage too, once we can kind of roll that and we can really start to do that with incumbent employees, we also try to make known, I might screw up the name, but I think it's the Work Ready Scholarship, or is it Ready Now? Work Ready Scholarship. And we've posted, a lot of different information about that. We also, as I think Linda mentioned, we also do GED support as well. We'll go ahead and hire them on, and we give them 6 months to get their GED. And we tell them, look, this is for your own personal benefit. This doesn't really gain Aristech anything, but it's for you and that pride and that professionalism. And what I've seen is that employees, to your point, Linda, really respond, to that when you're willing to invest in them. And then we've also had the good fortune to be able to invest in our equipment. So we've done a number of, multi-million-dollar equipment upgrades that we have not been able to do in like 20 years. And then lastly, investing in the environment. And what I mean by that is we just recently revamped our entire break room. We were able to use our own materials, which was kind of fun and kind of showcases how those materials can be utilized at an end user level. But the night and day difference in our break room was, I just can't even describe it. And then lastly, and I think you mentioned it, Linda called it well-being, we call it wellness. And again, to sound like a broken record, we have the three-legged stool of wellness. We talk about physical wellness, which is all kind of the traditional things you would think about wellness, getting your physicals, getting your flu shots, mammogram ban, cardio ban on site. We do every Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday, and we do a multitude of activities around that. The first leg, like I said, was physical. The second is financial wellness. We bring our financial advisor on site to communicate about 401k and budgeting. And again, we do a lot of topics and push a lot of information out. And then lastly, our third leg of the stool is mental wellness. And so we were doing this even before COVID. I think COVID made it even more important. We bring the EAP in and we do training sessions via our EAP. We've had motivational speakers that we've done on Zoom during COVID and made it mandatory. We also made mandatory EAP sessions, and we just utilize our EAP in a very partnership kind of way. It's not what I'd say like the traditional, oh, you got sent off to counseling, because there's a little bit of a stigma about that. But we really try to incorporate that into the everyday conversation, and we equip supervisors to feel comfortable when they see an employee struggling or an employee has shared something personal. And so I think it's that three-legged stool of wellness combined with that investment opportunity, and those two, plus together equal an employee who feels valued and feels like this is an opportunity for a career. We have employees here that have been here for 46 years. I had 2 employees 2 weeks ago who celebrated 35 years of service. And I mentioned that to my new hires. And I say, look, it's really a choice. You can get a job here, right? You can get a job anywhere. And if you're only coming here because of the money, I just shared this with the Free Store Food Bank Lift program was on site on Monday. And I said, you can get a job anywhere, but I'm hoping that you're coming here for a career, and that you want to come and you want to learn and you want to learn different opportunities, and we'll pay you for that, and you get rewarded with more responsibility. We had 5 employees who got promoted to supervisor last year out of the hourly workforce. And again, speaking to that growth and that opportunity, if that's not for you, that's okay. And that's where we talk about our maintenance apprenticeship program. So, like I said, they can go down the street for $1 more an hour. And if that's what they're looking for, fine. But we're hoping that employees want to come here and be another 46-year employee, 2 more 35-year employees. And I think that wellness and that investment speaks to that.
Thank you, Ruth. Those are really amazing initiatives and great response. Joni, we'll let you close us out with your comments on this.
Ditto. Oh, no. All of that. And so I really don't have, I have no value added to what Linda and Ruth said, because all of us are doing the exact same thing, because those are the best practices for businesses moving forward. There are just certain things that work, and we need to get on board with the things that work rather than still wishing that things were the way they used to be. They're not going back to that anymore. And one of the big focuses that we have here in HR and then, in the plant is we just talk about peopling. That's what they do every day. They just people, okay? And once we understand what that peopling looks like for them, then we can find a way to engage them, keep them with us, retain them, move them forward, give them that growth mindset so that they don't get stuck in their ways and, and dig down. And one of the big things that we've had a lot of fun with here is bringing our leadership along to understanding how to work with and supervise the employees that are being born and working into manufacturing, who are not the same employees that were born the year I was born. And so we've spent a lot of time just with our supervisor group talking about how we're going to change. What needs to change? Where do we need to flex? Where do we need, is every rule that worked for us in 2001 still the rule that will get us what we want in 2021 and beyond? So those are the kinds of conversations we've been having with our leadership, in addition to what they talked about today. Because what we do recognize is it's a different worker, it's a different world, it's a different economy, it's a different manufacturing. This is not your grandpa's manufacturing facility anymore. And because all of those things have changed, it's important for us to change as well, and to be flexible, and to recognize when you have good people that are around you, and where your help is going to come from. 20 years ago, I don't know if WOIA would have been around, or any of these things would have been around to even help workers. That wouldn't have been the focus 20 years ago. The focus 20 years ago was to get kids in school, even when there was a community college, get them through community college so that they can go on to the 4-year institution so they can graduate and then get a job. That's not the mindset anymore. So thank you, Jesse.
Thank you all, Linda, Ruth, Joni. It's just an honor to present with you. We're very appreciative of your partnership. I want to say thanks to Stephanie and to Debbie for inviting us to present to you all today. And I just want to say one last thing. I know we're at time, but the 3 employers that we have here with us today have really showcased the importance of having this education first mentality and supporting your employees and your new hires and your recruits on the journey of lifelong learning. Even if Workforce Solutions offerings are not something that would currently benefit your company, we can connect you to our technical programs across the system, to our graduates coming out of our traditional programs, or potentially going on from a 2-year to a 4-year pathway, but needing to work and earn a paycheck as they're pursuing that. Let us help you make that connection to our students, even if that's not on the Workforce Solutions side of the house, knowing that the pathway, Joni, as you just described it, it is no longer go to college, graduate, and then figure it out, right? Earn and learn is the way. We want you all to think of KCTCS as your partner in navigating that earn and learn space. So again, thank you all so much. Stephanie, I don't know if you have anything else to say. Debbie already put my contact in the chat. Appreciate you all listening in today, and appreciate the opportunity to share with you.
Thanks for coming, and we appreciate the information. Thank you, ladies, for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
everyone.
guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, same to you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye.